Good afternoon. Right as we get started here, I just want to take a moment to thank our first responders and firefighters. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention that our hearts and prayers are with you. I know we've had families affected throughout the district and the area, and we appreciate all that you do. As board clerk and acting presiding officer, I call to order the continuation of the August 27th, 2024 regular meeting of the Governing Board of Education at 4:01 p.m. on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at the District Office Conference Center, rooms A through C. Today, we're starting our time differently in order to conclude properly the board meeting of August 27th. The meeting was not adjourned, and while true, my colleagues' walkout brought the board below a quorum, that did not adjourn or terminate the meeting. All meetings of the board should be concluded and adjourned correctly and properly in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order and in keeping with our bylaws and governing handbook. I have several procedural points to make by way of clarification. Number one, when a quorum is lost during the course of a meeting at which a quorum was previously present, discussion amongst and by the remaining trustees may continue on any question that was pending at the time the quorum was lost, although action on that question may not be taken until and unless the quorum is restored. The remaining trustees may also conduct additional meeting activities on less than a full quorum, including the following: A, read and receive informational reports, such as committee reports, announcements, and upcoming events, etc. B, fix the time to adjourn. C, recess. D, adjourn. Or E, take measures to obtain a quorum. Number three, only the board or its trustees may adjourn a meeting of this board, not the superintendent. Further, there was no Brown Act violation in continuing the meeting, continuing discussion as to the pending question, and in exercising my constitutional right to speak. Every listener had a right to hear my further comments, and reading of the letter that was the subject of action item number 8, and listeners were effectively disenfranchised when the microphone and feed was cut prior to the meeting's end. Number 4, calling the question more correctly referred to as moving the previous question does not automatically cut off debate and discussion when seconded. Rather, once it has a second, it requires 2/3 majority vote of the board to cut off debate and force a vote on the question or motion. Mr. Schwartz, I currently have the floor as chair. I respectfully ask you just to wait a few minutes, and I will give you your time. Thank you. Number 5, with 2 seats out of 5 vacant for this board, a quorum and a majority for any board action to be taken requires all 3 trustees to be present and all 3 trustees to vote in favor. Likewise, a 2/3 majority, which is an even higher standard than a regular majority, also requires all 3 trustees to vote in favor under the current configuration of this board. We have received multiple legal opinions substantiating that any item agendized and successfully passed requires a 3-0 vote in the affirmative for valid action on specific matters. Those opinions have come from Orbach and Huff, Danis Wolliver Kelly, Epstein Becker, etc. Number 6, calling the question and other motions should not be used for the purpose of cutting off and censoring other colleagues. Before we move on to the pending action item, Mr. Schwartz, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, you go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
Mrs. Barclay?
Let's get this over with so we can get on to the business of the board.
I would like to add that I disagree with most of your points there. I have also consulted with legal counsel, and most of what you said is incorrect. However, we can agree to disagree. It is, however, true that if a meeting is dismissed for any reason, whether it be there's no quorum, whether a fire alarm is pulled, you do have to go back to end it correctly. I have no issue with that. But without getting into it, because we need to just move forward with this meeting, I I want it to be on the record that I disagree, and I know for a fact that most of what you said is incorrect. So, but let's move on.
And if I could add, opinions are like noses, everyone has one. So you could get 14 different legal opinions, 7 on one side, 7 on the other. That's not the issue. Let's just get on with the business of providing education to our students, keeping our kids safe, and giving them the best things they can have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, I'm going to call Mr. Brenner to the podium briefly. As a constitutional attorney who oversees quite a bit of what we've done in the past as the board, I would like you to go ahead and take the platform as it's been challenged that several of these things that I've mentioned are not legal. So, Mr. Brenner, I'd like to go ahead and give you the floor just for a brief period of time. I think it's important for the community and for us in the room to hear.
Excuse me.
Can you speak?
Excuse me.
Mr. Schwartz, as the chair, I've given Mr. Brenner the floor for the moment. Thank you. You've had your turn. Thank you. Mr. Brenner, you have the floor.
You're censuring him. You didn't like it when it happened to you.
Excuse me, those of you who are in the room that are commenting, this is not your meeting. I would respectfully ask that you let the board continue. We would love for you to be in the room to listen and be present, but I would ask that you be respectful and quiet during this time, please.
I just don't understand why
Mrs.
this
Massa?
is necessary. Let's move forward with the meeting.
I would ask you to respectfully refrain from speaking. The
follow the
floor is
agenda.
now with Mr. Brenner. Please, take the microphone.
Thank you, Trustee Wiersma, Trustee Schwartz,
Don't
Trustee
thank
Barkley.
me. You have no business being here.
This is
We
not
did not
on the
invite
agenda, and this is not
We
part of the
did not
agenda.
invite you to be
No
here.
motion has been
This
made.
is
This
our
not part
meeting,
of the
not
agenda.
your meeting.
As the chair of the board and the presiding officer, in light of what happened 2 weeks ago, I have asked him to be here and to
That's
make a
irrelevant
statement.
what you asked
This
him.
section is
You don't
only
have
going
the
to last a
authority
short
to
amount of
ask him to
time.
be here
I
for
indeed have the
$350
authority.
an hour. Sorry, you don't have that authority.
$650
Or
an
whatever
hour,
it is,
please.
whatever
$350
ridiculous
are the
amount.
regular attorneys.
I'm going to call a point of order and
You
ask
can't
that
call a
you
point of order.
respectfully
You're speaking
listen.
already.
Mr. Brenner, please speak.
Thank you, Trustee Wiersma. I was not thanking you, Trustee Schwartz,
Thank
or
you.
thanking you, Trustee Barkley. I was just acknowledging you both and being polite. I'm pleased to be with all three of you, and as well Superintendent Woods. I'm curious to know, and we don't have to have this discussion now during open session, regarding the points of disagreement over those you just raised. I don't think that any of them are incorrect. I would just note one additional thing, well, two additional things. One, the superintendent does have the authority to terminate or adjourn a meeting, but only when there are no trustees present at all. That did not happen at the August 27 meeting. With you remaining as a trustee, only the board or trustees, in this case yourself, could adjourn the meeting. That didn't happen. So I do agree, and I do want to note as a second point that you and Trustee Barkley do have an accord that the meeting should be adjourned and concluded properly. There was a pending question that should be addressed and an action or not taken on that, and then the meeting should be properly concluded. I'm happy and I'm here to address any other points of disagreement you want, but I certainly don't want to delay you getting down to the business of the board any more than we need to with procedural items, but I'm here and happy to help in any way I can to help the meeting go as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner.
As long as you're here, Mr. Brenner, could I just ask, I know my son's an attorney and he bills in certain increments of minutes. Can I just ask what increments of minutes you're going to bill us for this presentation?
Now I will thank you for acknowledging what I did as a presentation, even though it wasn't intended
Absolutely.
as that. I'm just here to be helpful. All of our billings are in tenths of an hour as a standard.
6 minutes.
6-minute increments,
Thank
correct.
you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brenner, one last question. As we worked through the information that I presented as clarification today, you were reading from Robert's Rules of Order and other documents that would give validity to what I reviewed here with the community. Is that correct?
Yes, I can say that the summary that you just gave on those various points regarding moving the previous question, adjournment, and a majority and two-thirds majority requirement are based on Robert's Rules of Order 2024 edition and other secondary materials. Again, I'm happy to be helpful and to be here to have the opportunity to help run the meeting. You run the meeting as smoothly as possible. Obviously, it's the business of the board that you're all here for in the district. So if I can be helpful in facilitating that, it's my honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. As a constitutional attorney, we appreciate your expertise. And perhaps when we have a full board, fully constituted with 5 seats, it might be a workshop that we could entertain with you or another establishment that can help us along the way. All right. Are we ready to move on to the action item so we can get to the board business? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and move to the next item. An open letter from Trustee Wiersma, myself, regarding the communication from Superintendent Woods distributed on July 25th, 2024 on BP 5020.01 and the finding from the California Department of Education. I move to distribute the open letter to all stakeholders to whom the superintendent's previous July 25th communication was sent in the same manner that it was sent, which is electronically, with an endorsement of the open letter by the board. In my view, given the importance of this issue to our community, further transparency regarding the superintendent's letter to the community about the CDE complaint and board policy 5020.01 is both needed and warranted. Accordingly, I ask that you support my effort to bring greater transparency to our stakeholders regarding this matter and vote to allow our community members to receive the open letter in the same manner as the superintendent's letter that was sent to them. Do I have a second? With no second, the motion will not move forward at this time. I also move the board's endorsement of the contents of the open letter as its own. Do I have a second? With no second, the motion will not move forward at this time, and that concludes that particular item. Do I have a motion to adjourn the August 27th meeting? Moved by Mr. Schwartz. Do I have a second?
Do we make motions to adjourn?
We are so today. Would you second that we move to adjourn?
Yes.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Meeting adjourned. The regular meeting of the Governing Board of Education is called to order by myself, Jennifer Wiersma, serving as the board clerk and acting presiding officer at 4:15 p.m. on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, at the District Office Conference Center, rooms A through C. Are there any requests for changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I have none.
All right, I would like to go ahead and pull the warrant list. I know Mrs. Lash and I have had a conversation in the last couple of days with one particular item there. So
What number?
that particular number is 2, I believe. Number 2, warrant report. Number 2. So no other requests?
What part of the warrant list? A particular item or the whole?
Yes, that particular item has to do with the Melendez contract that's listed for $5,000 as per board communication. So we're going to talk about the designation with that and correct the record on that. So that's what we'll be discussing. I will take a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Barclay,
Second.
seconded by,
Second, sorry.
that's okay, Mr. Schwartz. Lene, would you please call roll?
Barclay,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Wiersma.
Yes, motion adopted 3-0. Thank you, Lene. In accordance with Government Code Section 54957.7, the board will meet in closed session to consider the items listed in Section E. The governing board welcomes public comments. This is the time for closed session public comments. Any person wishing to provide a public comment to the board is required to attend the meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes to a maximum total of 30 minutes per item for comments on the closed session agenda item. Do we have anyone here for closed session public comments? All right. We do not. With that, we'll go ahead and head into closed session. Thank you so much to all for being here.